Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning, Ruben.
Good morning.
Good morning, Leila.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tundu, the birthday girl.
Yay.
You call her birthday girl, birthday lady. She's a lady, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
She's also a spring chicken.
No, I'm in my 40s now. Imagine the horror. Well, I'm approaching middle age if I haven't actually arrived there.
Okay.
Well, Efeni, what do you have for us?
Yes, let's start with these day newspapers. The lead story, Buhari pledges more funding, equipment for armed forces. Procures 22 aircraft, expects additional 17. From the commissioning of the 2 helicopters yesterday comes this report. And also from that event, the Daily Trust has the story from that event. Buhari, we are recording successes in ending insecurity. IDPs want clear agenda on going back home. Well, it's a good thing that we've added that 2 aircraft. Hopefully, it should help in the fight against insurgency, banditry, and kidnapping. But it brings to fore the need to equip the armed forces, not only the armed forces, but also the police, adequately to confront the rising cases of banditry, kidnapping, armed robbery all over the country right now.
Absolutely. This is definitely a worthy investment because we need this yesterday, as much equipment as we can get. Yeah. I mean, I wish I was an expert to say whether or not these were actually going to be helpful. That remains to be seen, I guess. But this is great. Yeah. It's a good investment.
It's good, to do whatever is necessary to provide the necessary hardware. Not just helicopters, but also fighter jets, and also whatever, the troops may need. But also the other part of it is to take care of the welfare of the troops also, and to make sure that, they are not overexposed to such an extent that they become tired of staying so long on the war front, because that has been one of the complaints, that some of them have been there almost on a permanent posting, whereas, they're supposed to, go in and go out and all of that. The second point is whether indeed it's a good idea to display, this military, hardware that we procure, because it's like we're advertising our capacity to the terrorists. I know oftentimes countries, simulate war games, they, display military hardware for strategic reasons, either to intimidate or to signal their level of capacity. But some people have expressed concern, that we've just bought a few helicopters and then we are informing the terrorists, more or less, of what we have.
I thought it was some kind of psychological warfare.
Well,
yeah, it must be.
Well, if that is the purpose,
That's what
that is purpose, it's not as if these are, latest technology kind of helicopters that we are displaying.
Because these are not...
If you have just brought 2 and you are still expecting 17, I don't know whether that is the right time to make so much noise about it.
Yeah, it is a bit.
The remaining point is about maintenance. As in everything, we also don't always maintain things very well in this country. So if we have bought these helicopters or this equipment, whatever, okay, would there be need for training, for some of our pilots, within the military to be able to handle? Do we have in place, the necessary protocols for maintaining? Because, sometimes, once upon a time, I think Nigeria even had to get experts from South Africa to help maintain, some equipment. All of this, we hope, has been thought through, and that this is not just, a confidence, a show of confidence, on the pages of newspapers.
But there do need to be shows of confidence because the federal government has been criticized from left, right, and center. So I guess this is one of the ways that they're addressing those criticisms to say, look, we're trying.
Yes, and don't forget that we're also still expecting the Tucano fighter jets, which we placed order for from that $1 billion withdrawn from the excess food account. Yes,
Without the National Assembly approval.
Well, but that...
You skipped that bit.
Being deployed for, well, we need it. So we're still expecting those jets. Like they said then, it takes time you place your order, it takes time. So where the government is trying to acquire more equipment for the military, I think that is the whole purpose of showcasing these two. More to follow, as we used to say in this day. Yes. Now, the Punch newspaper, 74 parties lose registration, set to battle INEC in court. Commission, Axis, Fawemis, NCP, Okoche's FDP, COA, 71 others. Edo governorship election for September 19, Ondo, October 10. That same story is in the front page of the Daily Sun. INEC prescribes 74 political parties, recognizes APC, PDP, ABGA, ZLP, 14 others, fixes September, October for Ondo Goba polls, CNPP, NCP, others, berate commission. Now, we saw this coming. So many parties during the last election. It became a Herculean task to even figure out which party you want to cast a vote for from that long...
And the ballot paper was, pages upon pages.
Yeah. So, but INEC, going by the Constitution and the Electoral Act, has done the needful. These parties, they don't make the threshold of performance in an election, and hence they had to go. But one party is already in court, so they have put their own deregistration on hold, because they're in court.
More parties will also go to court. And I think, as we said earlier, it's a good thing to test the law, for the courts to interpret the law. But at the same time, we still have, INEC has about 100 applications from political associations that still want to get registered. So, as I pointed out, before 2023, yes, the number may have been reduced to 18, but in 2023, you will probably have over 100 political parties, except INEC, the Electoral Commission, does due diligence and makes sure that, qualification for registration, the terms are already spelled out in the Constitution. They have to be very strict. And don't forget,
are you saying
in Nigeria, under our jurisdiction,
registering these parties?
Well, I mean, for you to be registered, you must have offices in every state of the federation.
It's not difficult
because
to meet, even if it's a
our Constitution recognizes only federal parties.
Many of them don't even bother doing that. When they're checked, they don't have the address they put doesn't exist.
Yeah.
They
So
don't
you
even
have to
bother
verify,
with that.
you have to do due diligence. Otherwise,
you'll end up in the same situation all over again.
That is it. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that those requirements are not very difficult to meet. Offices in all the states of the federation.
Many parties don't bother. They don't even bother.
And INEC go ahead and register them without meeting those conditions.
Because they are not going through a due diligence.
Let's take a short break now, Mr. Efeni. We'll be back with more on the news headlines. Please stay with us.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Still with us, reviewing the newspapers from around the world today, is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni. Efeni?
Yes, we're still on the political parties. Well, 18 for now. You are predicting it's going up. By 2023, given the number of applications on INEC's table right now, we will see another surge as we get close to the 2023 elections.
Likely.
Perhaps we have to... It's not something we can legislate, because don't forget that the law that liberalizes this registration of political party came from the Supreme Court.
Yes.
When
INEC versus in fact, much earlier.
Yes.
INEC versus Balarabe Musa.
Yes. So it's not something that we can legislate out of, say, this number of parties. But what somebody is suggesting, and which I think we need to also set some stringent measures to get into the ballot paper. Yes, they can
that's
exist.
Why I was referring to the guidelines for political party registration.
No.
But as long as
are you saying that what we have at the moment are inadequate?
What I'm saying is that it's not very difficult to meet those guidelines.
Really?
Yes. The threshold to be registered. But once you are registered, perhaps we need to set another bar to get into the ballot paper. So that we don't have
no,
this...
but once you're registered, you should automatically get on the ballot paper.
Exactly. What's the point of being registered if you can't make the ballot paper?
Registration is the real threshold.
Exactly.
So because you set up a political party because you want to participate in elections and win power and represent the people.
Well, not all the time. Some people set up political parties in other climes.
And that's the point.
Just to
prove a point.
Prove a point, push an idea during the electioneering campaign.
Well, why don't they set up a pressure group, an NGO,
a
why
CSO,
a political party?
like, you can't use a political party as a tool to mobilize something that is far from the essence of what a political party is meant to be.
Don't forget that in the US, you have the Green Party, you know, and the Green Party is not really hoping to win an election.
Yeah.
That's the point he's making.
I think they are, though.
Oh, really? Have they ever won?
No, it hasn't happened yet, but they really make a huge effort.
But at least they give people that support them the ability to even vote for them. Not that they're going to drop out 2 days before and put their weight behind another person, you know?
Okay, let's move on to other subjects. Daily Independent, Boko Haram victims. How did you arrive at your figure? Can ask Buhari, Christian Association of Nigeria. That issue is not about to go away very soon.
I don't understand that 90%.
Yes, because the president put that figure out when nobody asked for such. How it came into the debate is still a matter of conjecture, at least from my own end. The other day I said perhaps the handlers of the president did not handle that aspect well, because it's going to remain an issue when the president of Nigeria says that 90% of those killed by Boko Haram are Muslims.
He reinforced the religious undertone we're trying to get away from.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Such a shame.
probably it was the vetting process for that article written by the president that went, you know, all right, because someone, if 2, 3, 4 competent, you know, vigilant persons had looked at the script, somebody could easily have spotted it. And then say, look, let's take these statistics out of it.
We are going to raise an unintended issue by this figure. But
I mean, out of all the things that the president said in that essay, the only thing everybody is talking about is the 90%. You know, that could have been edited out, you know, carefully, if the vetting process had been more rigorous. Yes.
Okay.
But the bigger point that the president was making, you know, is the point about unity.
yes,
It's about harmony in Nigeria and government's commitment to deal with security challenges. And a few days after the essay appeared in Christianity Today, we saw the president pledging more funding and equipment and showcasing some equipment that government has procured. You know, so it's just, I think somebody needs to be more vigilant in vetting the scripts, in editing the scripts.
Okay, let's move on. Vanguard newspaper, decimation of Boko Haram. Prominent northern leaders disagree with Buhari air chief. Yakasai, Balarabe, Musa, Junaid, Dogara, others false president. I didn't accuse Buhari El-Rufai of sponsoring northern bandits, Ribadu. Yes, the issue of dissemination of these insurgents, which the government has consistently, and of course the military chiefs also consistently make that point, that Boko Haram has been thoroughly degraded. But not everybody seems to agree with them, because yes, they are not holding territories like they used to say, but major highways are cut off for days because the Boko Haram have taken over. After some days, it will take time to clear these highways. So are they still holding territories? No. Are they still very active? Yes. Have they been decimated to the extent that they are no longer a threat to citizens in the Northeast? Not exactly. So I think that debate should be couched in another manner. Ruben.
I agree with you. I mean, the only true measure of the achievement is when Nigeria is safe and Nigerians can feel safe in their homes.
Yeah.
For as long as we have this big challenge on all fronts: banditry, kidnapping, insurgency, terrorism. You can't confidently say the battle has been won.
Now, to other aspects of governance, the economy, the Nigerian Tribune. Slow growth of economy worries Buhari's Economic Advisory Council. Stresses rate of population growth, calls for clement environment to boost foreign investment, false lack of coordination among MDAs, wants procurement processes reform. President pledges to abide by council's advice.
You see, this is what Sundu made a point of earlier as well, when he said, how can you encourage foreign investments when at the end of the day, government can decide tomorrow that what you came in to start up can just be gone like that, you know? And there's nothing in place to support economic growth. Absolutely nothing.
Well, I wouldn't put it like that. I mean,
I know you wouldn't.
The government of the day, has taken some steps, particularly in the direction of providing an enabling environment for business. In fact, the government even set up a presidential enabling business environment council in that regard. And even the National Visa Policy 2020 that has been introduced by the Buhari administration is supposed to address the issue of economic integration and foreign direct investment and more opportunities within the economy. And then 3, of course, the planned diversification of the economy, the emphasis on SMEs and all of those policies that are meant to make sure that there's acceleration of economic growth. But however, the growth rate can be better. The main point being made by this advisory council is that with a population of 200 million, you can't be having a growth rate of 2.3, 2.4, and that a lot needs more to be done. That's a good point. And it's good to see the Economic Advisory Council meeting with the president. Many Nigerians, since that council was inaugurated, had been saying, where is this Economic Advisory Council? Yeah. What are they doing? Are they just winking in the dark, or they do not have access to the president? So for the first time, we've seen them engaging the president, and I believe that, given the pedigree, the competence, the weight of the persons on that council, what remains is for government to listen to their suggestions and to see how those suggestions can be processed.
So I'm confused now, though. Have we jettisoned the ERGP, or are they working along in that line?
Remember they are talking about macroeconomic issues. What needs to be done. It's not, what they are suggesting is not in conflict with the ERGP.
So, but what has happened to the ERGP?
Remember we had that report that came out
It's still a policy guideline.
Okay. It's until this year.
I haven't heard anything about that in ages.
Remember we had a report that came out on this day about a month ago about the government's plans for what happens after the ERGP. And when Femi Adesina came on the show, I asked him about it, and he said that it's still in talks, etc. So they didn't want to bring it up yet. But the point I was trying to make about saying we have no economic growth is, it can actually be argued really and truly that if your economic growth is below your population growth rate, then at the end of the day, you're not growing in real terms. Can we really call it economic growth?
But why I keep going back to the ERGP is I don't think, there's no point in having a plan if you don't constantly refer to it. Because that says 7%. Yes.
Now, perhaps what is worrisome is that we are not doing anything about our population.
Family planning.
Family planning, when a senator will stand on the floor of the Senate and advertise for wives.
Telling them to stand up like they're pieces of...
And still counting.
And that he's still counting.
And then we hear that he doesn't even know the names. Maybe he will stop by the time he gets to wife number 10.
So...
No, it's a big issue. It's a very big issue.
One thing I was hoping that President Buhari would tackle personally.
On the floor of the Senate.
What's wrong with Dr. Abati? What is wrong with Dr. Abati? Don't worry, I'll be the one in the Senate. I'll be the one displaying all my husbands. Don't worry.
Let's move on to the foreign newspapers. The Guardian newspaper, UK. Coronavirus fears rise as first Briton test positive. Yes, this is quite worrisome because this individual came in from another country, not China. So the efforts being put now is not focused only on China.
Yeah, it came from Singapore.
Yeah, so if you're just looking at China, those who have visited China, it may just be looking at, not the wrong direction, but there are other directions to also focus attention on. So generally, and the message from here is that we should be at our level as a country, we should also look at all sides passengers coming from all parts of the world, because you don't know who has been in touch with somebody who came from
we now
China.
have that scare as well, with the Senate coming out yesterday to say that there could be a possible, or there could possibly be, coronavirus in the country. However, when I read down the report, the symptoms that the people in Benue State are showing don't seem to be the symptoms of the new coronavirus. So I guess that also should try and keep people calm.
Well, we don't know yet. That should be investigated, as the Senate has requested, by the Nigerian Center for Disease Control and the Federal Ministry of Health. And given the alarm raised by Senator Abamoro, PDP, Benue South, who brought that matter to the attention of the Senate, I think that at the end of the day, there should be full disclosure of whatever is discovered. Otherwise, you know, everyone will be afraid that maybe Benue State has become a place where pathogens are walking on the streets.
Okay. Well, if we just have some time, Washington Post newspaper, in acquittal's wake, a surge of hostilities. Trump calls MPs vicious, horrible. Pelosi says president dishonors White House. So we'll still see these breakbacks from both the White House and Congress.
There will be no end to
Thank you,
it,
Mr.
definitely,
Efeni.
Thanks, Mr.
between
Efeni.
those two.